Hey, Bookworms of Concord. So, as promised in my book review on Stephen King's It, this is a video on recommendations for Stephen King books you should start with. If you haven't read any of his books before and would like to start, these are all the ones that I'm recommending. And the reason for that is, so I mentioned in the review that it was my very first Stephen King book, and because it's remarkably thick, I do not recommend this being your first Stephen King book. Not because it was bad, I really liked it. I finished it in only 9 days. My wife is in the hospital, so I had a lot of extra time on my hands, waiting around in the hospital, but so these are the books that I recommend that you start with. Keep in mind, though, I've only read 14 out of however many Stephen King has written. It's a lot. So I'm going to start with the shortest one I've read by him, maybe the shortest, I don't know, but The Mist. You may have seen the movie. If you have, then you're already familiar with the plot. A mysterious mist in a small town in Maine just kind of comes out of nowhere, and there are these enigmatic creatures within the mist. If you've seen the movie, the ending is very different. Just completely different. I won't say what it is. Just read it for yourself. It was pretty good. I think I gave this 4 stars. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I gave it 4. Yeah, 4 stars. So, as you can see, it's very, very short. This edition is only 163 pages. So, yeah. Another one I'd recommend is Misery, another one that has a film adaptation. Again, same concept as the movie. There are some... the ending also is significantly different, and I like the ending of the book a lot better than the movie. Some others might disagree, but whatever, everyone has their opinion. It's only only a little over 300 pages, so it's not that long. But yeah, it's more thriller than it is horror, because horror tends to have some sort of like supernatural elements to it. It doesn't have to, but a lot of horror does. But there's none of that, and it's just like the movie is just 2 people. And it's just a great thriller. So I'm starting to realize that all of these that I'm recommending that you start with, except for one of them, have movie adaptations. That was not on purpose. But the next one is Cujo. But before I say anything more about this, something you should know about Stephen King if you've never read him before is that in his novels, he tends to give you a lot of detail about the characters. In Misery, that's in there, and it's only 2 people, so it's not really overbearing. In The Mist, because it's so short, there's not a whole lot of character details as there are in his others. But this one, there is a lot. What surprised me about it was that there's more. You read more about the people than you do about the dog, which again, it was surprising to me. I was expecting it to be mostly scenes with the dog, but it was complete opposite. And some people, my wife included, didn't like this aspect of the book, but I really liked it, and I like this about most of his books, because what makes the stories more horrific is when you really get to know the characters. So you really get to care about them and empathize with them and like them so much that you don't want anything bad to happen to them. And so when the suspense is building and bad things happen, it's just more horrifying. So I think all the details he gives about the characters just really accentuates that horror aspect. And I think this might have been the first book I read of his that had like a lot of character details in it. I'm pretty sure I read this before some of the other longer ones that have those details, like Needful Things, which isn't on this list because it's a bit of a longer read. It's close to my next recommendation, but it's a little bit longer. But anyway, yeah, Cujo. Keep that in mind as you start this. It's more about the characters than the dog. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know what the differences are. But I like this a lot more than I expected because of those expectations, those reverse expectations that I received. I had actually given this 5 stars. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. The next one I recommend, this is a bit of a longer one. It's almost 500 pages, but it's The Dark Half. And I chose this one even though it's a bit longer than the others because to me it's just like a classic Stephen King style. It's got, like what I was saying with Cujo, a lot of the details of the characters, so you get to know them really well. The suspense just keeps building and building until it just explodes. It's so in that way it's a real page turner. Even though it's almost 500 pages, it doesn't quite feel like 500 pages, and even though at least for this edition the words are pretty small because of that. But it's about an author basically who's the pen name he writes under, that person or persona basically comes to life. And there's murders that his pen name is committing, and it has his DNA all over the evidence, all over the crime scene. And one thing I really liked about this book, it's kind of hard to tell unless you look closely, but these are sparrows. And Stephen King drew from some very, very cool, obscure American folklore about sparrows. I had to look that up while I was reading it. I was like, why is he doing all this stuff with sparrows? What's so significant about them? So I did some research and found that that he drew heavily from some American folklore about sparrows that I had never heard of before. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one a lot. If you've read Mr. Murder by Dean Koontz, it's very similar in concept to that. This is the second to last one, but The Green Mile. This edition is exactly 500 pages, which might seem like much, but you can tell it's kind of narrow. And the lettering is not too small, so it goes quicker than you think. Again, the movie, I would say that of all movie adaptations, especially of Stephen King, the movie and the book are probably the closest to each other than any other film adaptation I've seen. But I saw the movie first and then read the book a while after, and I loved the movie and I loved the book for the same reasons. And lastly is The Shining. This is the longest of all my recommendations. 600 and a half, a little over 600 and a half pages. But it goes quicker than you think. The font isn't as small. So much better than the movie. I was not a big fan of the movie. The actress, I didn't really like her acting. But yeah, there's a lot of plot threads that are completely different, just make this a much better story. So those are all my recommendations. Let me know what you think. Okay, bye.